Yo, Shalom, Seven Gang, Sauce Gang over everything. You know how we rocking, man. He said you can lie about this, stunt about that. You can't dodge these 50 slides. I'm about to rat tat tat. Let's get it, man. We back again, back in full effect. You know what I'm saying? We say no to vague interpretations. You know how we rocking, man. You know that we gripped up. You know that we clipped up. 7 candlesticks up, and I've been telling you niggas, it ain't a debate, it's a stick up. So as promised, The Black Jews of Africa by Edith Bruder, part 4. This is just going to be dealing with chapter 8. Then we're going to deal with chapter 9. And then we're going to finish off with the epilogue, because, you know, we finish books over here. We complete books over here. You understand? This went on a hiatus for a while. I had to take it. Nobody don't know. I had to take care of some family business. So that really dampened and actually hindered the progress of this series. As you can see, the first 3 parts were done 4 or 5 months ago, but it takes time for me to type certain highlights and Edith Bruder's book into PowerPoint form and then make sure everything's correct for you guys. So I finally got chapter 8 done. Chapter 9 is going to take me some time to actually do as well. But I'm a one-man army. I have a job. I take care of my family. So it takes me time. I try to use as much free time as I can. And, you know, you guys don't know how much time I really dedicate to this. But I got this one done. And chapter 9 and epilogue will be done next. And we'll have a complete book finished here on the channel. So anybody wants to experience The Black Jews of Africa by Edith Bruder, you can come to Genesis 49ers, come to the source and actually experience it. We completed To the Parphets book about the Black Jews as well. You can actually click that. We have that in the playlist. So if you go to Genesis 49ers and click on our playlist, you can actually see the beginning to the end and experience the entire book with your brother Yashu. You know how we do. We actually read here. You know how we rocking, man. 7 Gang, Sauce Gang over everything. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're not a subscriber yet. And share the video on the multiple social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Let's get us out there, man. You know, make sure that this platform is reverberated across the world and we can get more people involved in scholarship and study, because a lot of these other people and other groups like Garfield, Sonetta, people on the other aisle, even other Israelite groups, they're not pushing scholarship. They're not pushing actual reading of the material. A lot of people are just pontificating and making up statements and claiming certain things, but we want to be better here at the source. We want to actually be able to substantiate our claims with sources, citations, literature, academia, anthropology, archaeology, genetics, so on and so forth. That's what we push here, and that's what I try to provide at a high level here at the source. All right. So we're going to examine this chapter, chapter 8, dealing with the Jewish presence in sub-Saharan Africa. That's the title of the chapter. And that's going to piss a lot of you Hoteppers off, a lot of you pro-Kemet brothers off, you African onlyists, as I like to call the Africanity and insanity. It's going to piss you off. And then the chapter 9 is the African Jews in Western and Central Africa. That's going to make you even more upset. So when we get to that part, just buckle in, you know what I'm saying? Like what New Jersey Twerk said, I'm strapped in. You better strap in, man. You know how we rocking, man. So historical narratives of a Jewish presence in sub-Saharan Africa is chapter 8, and we're going to deal with that today. We're going to dive in it today. Read this book cover to cover, front to back, read it, had to reread it again as I was typing in each of my PowerPoint slides. So I'm very familiar with this book. If anybody wants to challenge me on it, I advise you not. I've read every page in this book. You understand? Prologue. That's another thing. People don't read the prologue and prefaces. I read that too, because the author will give you their reasoning behind actually writing the work, what inspired them. And those things are important to understand and grasp the concepts in the book. And that's what separates, you know, the source from people that are just pro skimmers. You understand? Like Garfield can't read. He's a pro skimmer. All he does is skim. He does not read and digest literature. You know what I'm saying? That advent of YouTube, a lot of people just go watch a YouTube video. Well, he said in this YouTube video, you guys are lying. So, okay, exemplify that. Like yesterday, someone came on and said the Africans are not theists. You understand? Based upon the fact that he believed that the gods did not interact with humans. Then we pulled up that Al-Domari did interact with humans because I asked him, well, can you provide us an example of that? What deity are you talking about? He said, Olodumare. Olodumare does not interact with humans or interact with his creation, and we proved that to be false. Olodumare does interact with his creation. I even just purchased the book called The 100 Religions of Africa Before Slavery. I think it's called. Let me pull it up. 100. What was it? Yeah, 100 African Religions Before Slavery by Akan Takruri. And in that book, it says that Olorun, which is Olodumare, we talked about that last night, is in the heaven realm's domain, Olorun, a sun god. He is known as the omnipotent ruler of the Yoruba pantheon, whose light brings life and vitality to all living things. He takes an active role in the affairs of both heaven and earth. So that would be a theistic god, a theistic deity, not a deistic deity. So, I mean, anybody arguing about Africa and these African traditions, a lot of these people that are arguing are atheists, and they're trying to get our people to subscribe to atheism. But they will also double speak and speak with a forked tongue and pretty much contradict themselves, because what they say after that is, well, if we say, well, we should replace the Bible. We should just look at our ancestors. But your ancestors were theists. They believed in deities. They believed in gods. They had a spiritual system set up where they reverence deities. There's no way around that. But that's not the point of the video. The brother got crushed yesterday. People will continue to get crushed because, again, these Facebook and YouTube scholars are not basing their information on rigorous research and methodology. They're basing it on, I heard Polite 7 years ago say that you guys were false. It's all about sensationalism here instead of actually studying and dealing with academia. These are the people claim to go to school and all that. Well, we can clearly see whatever school you went to didn't really arm you with the tools for research and methodology. And then you guys are going to school for Africana studies. That's bullshit. All right. Well, anyway, today's title, Black Jews of Africa by Edith Bruder, Part 4. We're going to be dealing with the highlights and dealing with the poignant points that's in her book. If you want to get the entire experience, you're going to have to purchase the book. You have to buy the book like I did and actually sit down and read it. You understand? I have the physical copy. I had to transcribe all my highlights. That's why it took so long. It took me about a week to actually do this, going to work, coming home. As soon as I come home, take a shower, open up the computer, boot it up, PowerPoint, put my book open and have my fingers on the keyboard. I'm not I'm not the quickest typer, but I was able to get it done within a week. So I got you. Hope y'all strapped in like New Jersey twerk saying, I'm strapped in. I'll clap them into a coma. Y'all know how it go. Madness. I can snap at any moment. Let's get it. Let's get it, man. Shout out to our ancestors, man, before we even started. Shout out to Haplogroup E for introducing civilization to the world, agriculture into the world, and the Neolithic Revolution to the world. Shout out to the Natufians that we are related to. Shout out to the Limba. Shout out to the Bantu that spread agriculture throughout Africa and civilized Africa and actually dominated Africa and created the greatest empires in Africa. Ouagadougou, Gayo, so on and so forth, man. We understand what our ancestors did was pivotal. Building the Great Wall of Zimbabwe, okay? Trading in salt and gold, okay? Being innovators, bringing in certain technology into West Africa, pyrotechnology, metallurgy, the knowledge of irrigation, so on and so forth, and bringing in watermelon chickens, coconuts, chicken seeds, you understand, terracotta, and so forth. So I just want to take out a moment to honor my ancestors and what they have done and how great they are, and being agrarians and being trendsetters and setting themselves apart from the foraging hunter-gatherer groups that were in Africa before. I just want to make that noted. You understand? You know how we rock it, man. 7 Gang, Source Gang. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. All right. Without no further ado, let's get right to it, man. The Black Jews of Africa, the highlights of Edith Bruder's book. I want to thank Edith Bruder for taking out her time and her work to actually write and compose this book. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate the sister for doing that. And yes, I'm saying sister because she put in work. You understand? And I see people that put in work as sisters and brothers. They put in work for our cause. She didn't have to do that. And she actually got a PhD off of this. If you read the foreword, if you read the beginning of the book, she lets you know that. You understand? Chapter 8, Historical Narratives of a Jewish Presence in Sub-Saharan Africa. Let's go. Let's get it. Historical elements. In the absence of recorded African history, the myths of origin of these societies propose a version of their past based on the historical presence of Jews in Africa. Based on the historical presence of Jews in Africa. So if anybody's saying that Jews were never in Africa or never in sub-Saharan Africa, they're wrong. It is flat out wrong. There's a historical, according to Edith Bruder, presence of Jews in Africa. Since the early Middle Ages, legends disseminating among Jews as well as non-Jews claiming the existence of Jewish kingdoms in Eastern and Western Africa gained in popularity and influence. Such genealogies uncovered by travels of Eldad the Danite in the 9th century or Benjamin of Tudela in the 12th century. It's page number 97. Page number 98 says, following Mircea Eliade, I am using the concept of myth, which reveals a living pattern rather than a pure fiction, as a sacred history and therefore a true history because it always refers to realities and at the same time reveals the eruption of the sacred into the world. So again, whenever she uses the word myth in her book, she tells you exactly what she means. A living pattern rather than a pure fiction. She's not saying it's pure fiction. She's saying it's real. It actually, myth actually encapsulate realities. And that's page 98. And this is the importance of reading, actually having reading and comprehension skills. Page number 3, what from the introduction says that, but with this contempt, one will commit unfairness similar to the thoughtless rejection of the material legends. And this is what many of our people on the other side of the aisle do, African conscious groups. They will reject anything that the legends of the Ouagadougou, it says they come back from the Middle East. They will reject that, even though that is the legend of the people. You guys really hate African oral traditions, African legends, because you don't like what they say. That's called being biased. Because the legend of the Soninke people, they say they come from Sonin, the people of Sonin, which is Aswan, and they also connect themselves through Dinga to the Middle East. You trying to reject that is showing your bias against the narrative because it says Middle East. If it would have said anything else, you wouldn't have no problem with it. But since it says Middle East, you reject it. So I'm going to read it again from Sigmund Freud. He said, but with this contempt, one will commit unfairness similar to the thoughtless rejection to the material legends, traditions and interpretations of people's prehistory. So you guys will deny the traditions, you will deny the legends, you will deny the interpretation of these people's prehistory that they've been teaching and passing down for eons. You will deny it because you don't want to accept it. You don't want to accept the idea that these people came from other places outside of sub-Saharan Africa, which is crazy because if you even read secular history of Ghana, they tell you that these people were not originally from sub-Saharan Africa. They traveled from East Africa through the Sahara and penetrated into what we call Ghana today. The secularists will tell you that. But you guys have this narrative, anything that says outside of a point to an origin outside of Africa, outside of sub-Saharan Africa, in particular, is a problem because you're racist. erases. And Mutesa brings this out that sub-Saharan Africa has always been erroneously labeled Black Africa. So when every time you think about Black people, you point towards sub-Saharan Africa. That is a racist concept. And you use that concept that's racist in nature, and you use it to deny the rich history and the legends and traditions and the interpretation of these people's own prehistory. It says, despite all distortions and misunderstandings, it is through them that the reality of the past is represented. They are what people formed from original experience under motivations, and if one could only through the knowledge of all the operating forces counsel these distortions, one could be able to discover the historical truth behind this legendary material. Sigmund Freud, which she quoted in her introduction, page number 3. So she's getting you ready to read the information in her book correctly. So when she says myth, legend, tradition, she's not rejecting it, because she knows there is historical truth behind it. That's why when we go back to the previous slide, in the absence of recorded African history, the myths of origin of these societies propose a version of their past based on the historical presence of Jews in Africa. That's what her book says. Y'all gonna have a long time messing with me because I actually read. Okay. So page 99 says, so Yemenite Jews maintain that they were the offspring of Jews who migrated to southern Arabia before the destruction of the first temple, 586 BCE. This is the same thing that the Limba claim as well. And we know the Limba have genetic ties, and they show a Eurasian gene flow because of the J and the T markers amongst them. There's no way you can get around that. If we consider these mythic genealogies that recount an ancient presence of Jews in Africa and their progression into the interior of the continent as a whole, the dispersion from Egypt constitutes one of the major narrative patterns claiming a Jewish presence in Africa. The diffusion from Egypt was variously said to have taken place in the time of the Exodus, when some Jews went south along the Nile instead toward Israel with Moses, or after the destruction of the first temple, 586 BCE, in the wake of Jeremiah, traveling up the Nile through the Sudan to Ethiopia. It's page number 99. Who really read this book? The book of Jeremiah 44:1 mentions several settlements of Jewish colonies in Egypt. Migdal on a branch of the Nile Delta. Daphne, the former camp of the Greek mercenaries. Memphis, the capital city. And last but not least, the country of Patawars, the Egyptian term for the country of the south, the southern province whose capital was Elephantine. And we know, real quick, we know the Jews was in Elephantine. We know the Jews was there, which is right next to Aswan. We've been telling you that's an Asiatic repository in history. We know they were there because we have the Elephantine papyri recording their presence and validating that certain individuals in the biblical narrative did actually exist. And I know that makes people soul burn because you've been told they don't exist, but we got a historical attestation to their existence. Okay. The first historical record of historical presence of Jews in the area west of Egypt occurred in the context of the controversy of Flavius Josephus against Appian. Josephus notes that the 3rd century BCE, 100,000 Jews were deported from Israel to Egypt, that from there they went from Cyrenaica and probably other countries in North Africa. Black Jews of Africa, page number 99 by Edith Bruder. The harsh repression of Jewish rebellion against Roman rule marked the end of the spread of Judaism in Cyrenaica. The Jews scattered. Some probably wandered toward the Jebel Nafusa and the hinterlands of Tripoli. Others toward Egypt, particularly Alexandria and the Maghreb, where they joined existing settlements. One of the hypotheses of a Jewish push towards the Saharan oasis, as far as the river Niger, is that it was a consequence of the dispersion that followed the Jewish defeat in AD 115. This hypothesis can be combined with the legend of the Jewish kingdoms in Africa and numerous variations about the destiny of the lost tribes in the desert of Africa. As we have seen, Della Fosse is situated in Western Africa, one of the phases of the great expansion of the Jews, Syrians, ancestors of the Pool. Legends attributed the origin of the great empire of Ghana to these refugees. That's page number 100. So again, she gives you a culmination of hypotheses that pushed the Jews into the Saharan oases, into Western Africa, and even posit them as being the having their origins or founders of the great empire of Ghana to these refugees. That would mean the people that started Ghana will be E3A, E1, B1A, like we've been seeing, and these people will be descendants or the progeny of the Jews. For years, the scholarly consensus was that the Falasha were the direct descendants of the Agal who came to Ethiopia through Egypt or South Arabia. Let me read that again. For years, the scholarly consensus for the Falasha were the direct descendants of the Agal who came to Egypt through Egypt or South Arabia. The case for the diffusion or up through Egypt rests upon the known presence of Jews in Egypt prior to the Exodus and the existence of Jewish contingent at Elephantine. This settlement allegedly marked the beginning of the extension of the Jewish influences towards the interior of the continent. Page number 100. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Like the beloved Lux said, he gonna get this work. He gonna get this work. Let's get it. There were certainly Jews in the south of Egypt whose presence could suggest hypothesis of a diffusion of the Falasha from this region. Historians date the settling of the Jewish soldiers in the region of Elephantine back to the middle of the 7th century BCE, at the time when Manasseh was freed from his Assyrian overlord and was able to provide mercenaries to Egypt in order to obtain support. Remember, this historians are saying this, that the Jewish soldiers would go to Elephantine in the middle of the 7th century BC. Keep that in mind. The attractiveness of a theory. Hold on real quick. Let me blow this up. How could I forget to blow this up, man? Shout out to y'all. Hit that like button. Let's get it, man. Let's go. Okay. The attractiveness of a theory of diffusion of Jews from Egypt is enhanced by the papyri of Elephantine, which provides information on a type of syncretic Judaism practiced by Aramaic-speaking community at Elephantine, comparable to the aspects of Falasha practice. I want to make note of that as well, because people will say, oh, if these people are Jews, why do we have a pure Jewish religion? Well, of course, you have acculturation that goes on when you mix ideas or you even create new ideas and new practices and cultural patterns as you move far away from the source, right? So that was going on with Elephantine. They mixed a lot of the Egyptian belief and Egyptian cultic practices with the Yahwistic cultic practices, which we should cover that on the channel. I have a nice book on the Elephantine papyri experience, and I might cover that on the channel. It says a document mentioned by Porton recount an expedition in Nubia and Elephantine just before the Persian conquest, whose convoy included 30 rowers, 60 Palestinians, 60 Palestinians, perhaps Jews, 15 Syrians, and several Egyptians and Nubians. That's page 100 of The Black Jews of Africa by Edith Bruder. From the 11th century on, Arab travelers spoke of the existence of Jewish groups in Africa, but Bilad al-Sudan and the Tariq al-Fatih collections of Arab sources on medieval Western Africa give little direct information about the Jews. The existence of the Black Jews, as suggested by Arab authors, would give some historical support, tenuous as it may be, to the legends of a Jewish kingdom in Africa. It's page 101 of The Black Jews of Africa. The best known of the Arab historians of geographers of Africa was Leo Africanus, circa 1492-1550. For many years, his description of Africa was the only source on sub-Saharan Africa and became the major geographical source of knowledge on the continent. carried great authority. It makes frequent mention of Jews in Africa. Leo Africanus tells us that Africans, before being Muslims, had observed the Jewish religion. Let me read that again. Leo Africanus tells us that Africans, before being Muslim, had observed the Jewish religion. Now, at this time, it was one of the major sources for sub-Saharan African history, major sources for the major geographical knowledge of the continent. And within this source, it talks about the Africans, before being converted into Islam, had observed the Jewish religion. It says, according to some Arab historians, when Arab armies penetrated Berber lands in the 7th century, many of the tribes were Jewish or strongly influenced by Judaism. Ibn Khaldun, another great Arab historian, wrote in the 15th century, it is possible, moreover, that others among those Berber tribes believed in the Jewish religion, which they have received from the Israelites at the time of the expansion of their kingdom to the neighborhood of Syria and their rule over it. This was true also of Nafusa in Africa. The Kwandalak Lawak, Maduna, Baalula, and the Giyata, and the Banu Bazaz, and the outermost Maghrib, until the great Idris, a descendant of Hassan ibn Hassan, who shunned forth in the Maghrib, wiped out all the remnants of religions and communities that were in this area. One of the most respected of them was the Kahina, Daya, the daughter of Matya, the son of Typhon, queen of the Aris Mountains. Her people were of the Jarara tribe, kings and leaders of the Buter people, a group of Berber tribes. So again, he's given the history. Ibn Khaldun is giving the history of the Jews being in this region, being amongst the Berber tribes, and so on and so forth. And an Arabic force came in and pretty much put an end to their practices of being Jews and made, of course, many of them convert to Islam. That's page number 102. Legend recounts that Queen Kahina, was a Jewish Berber queen and priestess with supernatural powers who was crowned queen of the Maghrib when at the head of her soldiers mounted on camels. She compelled the Arab general Hassan ibn Numan to retreat. When Ibn Numan came back with enormous reinforcements, the Kahina's prophetic talent allowed her to predict the defeat of her people. She ordered her sons to go over to the enemy, and she chose to be killed in action. The contribution of these antique sources to research carried out by French colonial agents from the end of the 19th century encouraged the perception of traces of a Jewish presence in Western Africa. Page number 102. Since ancient times, a long stripe of pre-Saharan territories which spread from Alexandria to the mouth of Wadi Dra, local traditions can be found everywhere that attest to the ancient existence of sedentary Jewish populations, to whom the introduction of certain techniques might be linked. Metallurgy and well boring. Isn't that the argument we've been bringing up? And again, sidebar. The first time that you see metallurgy in Nigeria is 2,500 years ago. You understand? So that gives enough time for Israelites to come in and settle into these areas and introduce these different technologies like metallurgy and well burning and bringing in palm trees, because that was not indigenous to sub-Saharan Africa. No one can prove that they were dealing with metallurgy at all. That's why they have a metal to stone. They have stone to metal age. Because they go straight from stone straight to the metal. They don't have a natural progression. They didn't have a copper age. They didn't have a bronze age. They went straight to iron. And we introduced that. Our people introduced that. People with haplogroup E introduced metallurgy and well boring into sub-Saharan Africa. All right, so I'm going to read it again. Local tradition can be found everywhere that attests to the ancient existence of sedentary Jewish populations, to whom the introduction of certain techniques might be linked, metallurgy and well boring. Jews were able to reach the regions of West Africa, Ghana, Mali, Borno, and Songhai by settling in the important places, trading posts, and markets through which transisted the trade from Maghrib to Sudan. Page number 102. The Trickle Matuni, the earliest trans-Saharan trail, established a link at Fez in Marrakesh to Walata in Timbuktu region through the Western Sahara and Mauritania. It eventually created a network that connected with all the great North African centers to Timbuktu. As the new crossroads attracted settlements, it seemed that Jews were among them first. The usual occupations of these Jews from southern Maghreb, that is, traders and goldsmiths or silversmiths, brought them into contact with West African populations who provided gold dust. Because Black Africa lacked salt, horses, and manufactured goods, its people exchanged gold and slaves for goods brought by North African traders. Real quick, I want to make a note on that, showing you that slave trade has been going on for years, man. Before the advent of the colonial people coming in, West Africans were already trading in slaves. That's just a reality you got to deal with. It says gold extracted from the mines of Senegal, Mali, and the northeast of the Gold Coast was the main object of the trans-Saharan trade. In Muslim lands, Muslims were theoretically prohibited from owning or trading the gold. It seems that is why the Jews were present near production centers, why they took caravans that carried gold, why coin makers and goldsmiths who worked and sold the gold were Jews. So again, anybody saying there were no Jews in Senegal, Mali, Ghana, the Gold Coast, that is a lie. Historically, we can show you the Jews there because they were the ones handling the gold. They were the goldsmiths because, again, the Muslims were prohibited from owning and trading gold. Michael Abitbol pointed to the presence of Jewish groups in the Saharan confines before the Middle Ages. Some Jews lived in the Tagawas and Ghoul mine, the last two Moroccan posts on the trans-Saharan Atlantic route before entering the desert. Farther to the east, a small Karaite Jewish kingdom is said to have existed in the Dry Valley until the beginning of the 11th century. Its existence is plausible given the fragmented political situation of the region at the time and the interiority of Jewish traditions in the area. So this is her thoughts on this. She's saying it's plausible that this is here. She gives her reasons why, because the political situation and the fact that Jewish traditions are replete in this area in the Dry Valley. The members of this community claim that the ancestors came from Palestine via the edge of the Sahara at the time of Nebuchadnezzar. And that's funny because, again, this lines up with what the Limba say. They said they came at the time of Nebuchadnezzar, at the sack of that temple and that destruction when they fled. And the proof of that is they say they're the men of Sina. And when you go to the book of Nehemiah and Ezra, it tells you that some of the men, the Jews that went to Sina, came back during the time of Nehemiah to restore and rebuild the wall. All right. Similar oral testimony as the Limba says the members of this community, Jewish states of the Sahara, claim that these ancestors came from Palestine via the edge of the Sahara at the time of Nebuchadnezzar. That's Black Jews of Africa, page number 103. And we have Abraham's Children by John and Teen, page number 116, 117 says, but according to their meaning the Limba, oral legend, they are Israelites supported by King Nebuchadnezzar from Judea to southern Arabia, a land they call Sina. The Limba cite passages in Ezra 2 and 35 and Nehemiah 7 and 38, where it says almost 3,930 sons of Sina returned from the exile in 538 BCE at the behest of the Persian king Cyrus to rebuild the temple the Babylonians had destroyed. All right, so you can see the comparative analysis, and we know the Limba have a history of being in Palestine, being outside of sub-Saharan Africa. Why? Because they have Eurasian genetic markers amongst them. They have T and they have J. No one can dispute that. That has been scientifically found. It's scientifically sound. There's nothing you can do with that but accept it. That shows a Eurasian gene flow into Africa, which conforms with the scientific studies that there was a major Eurasian gene flow into Africa around circa 3,000 years ago. And that's when we start seeing metallurgy come into Africa. That's when we start seeing all of these Southwest Asian material culture become into fruition during that time period. So again, it all makes sense. Let's keep going. In the Tafila and Sija Masa, a hub of transparent trade, it was fought over by the North African dynasties before the destruction of its Jewish community by the Almohads, 1050 CE. It was an important center of Jewish civilization. This is confirmed by the well-known Andalusian poet and rabbi Abraham ibn Ezra, 1062 to 1167, who wrote that it was a city of sages and Gaianim, who maintained constant contact with Talmudic schools of Mesopotamia, Egypt, North Morocco, and Spain. From the 11th to 13th century under the Almoravid, 1070 to 1147, and the Almohad, 1130 to 1269 rule, the political unification of the Western Maghreb was followed by the establishment of a rigid Islamic law and the creation of a homogeneous religious society that gradually extinguished any religious particularism. So these Muslims will come and sweep in and start to what? Suppress the Jewish traditions and the Judaism in these areas. It says the Almohads were ruthless towards the Jews who refused to convert to Islam. After a century of the Almohad persecution, numerous Jewish communities ceased to exist. That's page number 103. So again, a lot of suppression was going on against these Jewish tribes that were in sub-Saharan Africa. On the Algerian-Moroccan border, according to local chronicle, discovered at the beginning of the 20th century by the French A.G.P. Martin, the very early Jewish inhabitants of the Tuat and Garara settled in the 1st century CE, coming from Cyrenaica, and followed by the second wave of settlers who arrived with Arab traders from Mosul. The making of a Fogara underground water pipes in Tuat, based on the model that previously was in Mesopotamia, confirms that this know-how seems to have originated from Persia and to date to ancient antiquity. They were mentioned as far back as the 5th century BCE in Herodotus. So again, what we've been saying, who brought this technology to sub-Saharan Africa? Who was able to do well boring? Who was able to bring this irrigation to sub-Saharan Africa? It was not there before. These people brought that understanding with them, which shows a demic diffusion. People from these regions, from Mesopotamia, from Eurasia, came into Africa and brought this understanding with them. I'm going to read it again. The making of the Fogara, which is an underground water pipes in Tuat, based on the model that was previously in Mesopotamia. Who read this damn book? You niggas did not read this damn book. You lying ass niggas. You niggas be scheming. You niggas be skimming. Y'all do not read these books. Garfield, Rob Bourne, claiming you done read this damn book. We brought all this in. We brought this information in, and the know-how in, and the skill and the technology and power technology, glass beads and everything. We brought that in. Glory be to our ancestors who did this. Let's get it, man. Another tradition from the region of Tugart in northeast of Tuat reveals that the Jewish population is so ancient that they are considered to be the earliest white inhabitants of this area. So again, they invoke this white status because guess what? They believe that the Jews are white because of modernization. But even if they was white, black, or whatever, haplogroup E consists of all shades, so that doesn't mean anything. Let's keep going. In the most ancient period whose tradition was conserved by memory, the country was inhabited by Jews who employed Negro workers and who owned casors or palm groves. One day a man, if the Benai Marine named Al-Haji Samani Al-Marini Al-Di Jalabi came from the Maghreb, it was around the 7th century. Several years after his arrival, he issued an edict stipulating that within 3 days, all of the Jews had to become Muslims or leave the country. Again, this is more evidence Jews was there because he made an edict stipulating that they would have to convert or leave. More material evidence that these people were there. Now people gonna harp on, oh, they had Negro workers, they had slaves. Of course, they dealt with slaves. All of West Africa was traded in gold and slaves. We mentioned that earlier. That was the enterprise during that time. A lot of y'all will invoke that and try to invoke the feelings. Oh, they can't be related to us. They sold slaves. What does that have to do with the historical empirical reality that these people existed here and they were here? That appeal to emotionalism doesn't work here at the source. It says most of them immigrated and those who remained were named Mahajirin, expatriates. The Mahajirin are of the Jewish race. They are the last descendants of the ancient Jews of Tuat, and although they became Muslims, they continue to live and marry among themselves. Black Jews of Africa, page number 104. Let's keep reading. Tuat was also linked to the central Maghreb by the Masab Trail with its Jewish communities of Wargala and Tugurt. In 1447, Antonio Malfante, a Genovese Christian, undertook a voyage to Tuat. The letter he wrote during his stay between the Tlemcen and the Tamantit is of great interest as regards the presence of prosperity of Jews in these regions at that time. Here Jews abound. They live in peace under the rule of various masters, each of whom defends his subordinates. They thus have a very peaceful social life. Again, for all of the naysayers out there, you can't write about a people that wasn't there. Clearly, Jews were there. And this was in 1447, by the way. Let's keep going. Leo Africanus' testimony is the best source of information on the status of Jews in the provinces bordering Western Africa. Many Jewish workers, such as goldsmiths and ironsmiths. We know, too, from the visit of Leo Africanus to Gurara around 1506, that many Jews had lived there and that they were victims of a strange persecution in the year of the fall of Granada. This Jewish community had been condemned in 1492 by the decision of Sheikh Abd al-Karim al-Maghili, who offered 7 mikals of gold to whoever would kill a Jew and ordered the destruction of the synagogue of Tamatit and other synagogues at Tuat. That's page number 106. Let's keep it going. While some of the Jews could have fled northward and westward, some of the survivors would have been able to go farther south of the Sahara toward the kingdom of Gaio along the caravan routes. Soon after that, we learned from Leo Africanus that under the influence of the same al-Maghili, the Askia Muhammad the Great, ruler of Songhai, made an edict to expel the Jews from his kingdom, and that the Jews were obliged to either apostatize or die. So again, they made a policy targeting the Jews in the Songhai Empire, meaning the Jews were in the Songhai Empire, meaning the Jews were in sub-Saharan Africa, meaning the Jews were in Western Africa. Deal with it. That's just an empirical reality. There's no way around it. Askia the Great made a policy, made an edict to remove these people if they did not convert. That's direct attestation to them being there. It seems that the policy of Askia Muhammad was to put an end to the Jewish presence in the Niger Basin. But such measures against the Jews only make sense only if Jews were numerous in this area. This is Edith Bruder putting common sense and logic, basic logic and reasoning, and beating it in the head of the reader. The only reason you would make a law like this, make an edict like this, make a rule like this, make a policy, enact a policy like this, if there was numerous amounts of Jews in the Songhai area, in the Niger Basin, in sub-Saharan Africa. There's no way around it. Page number 107. You niggas is not reading, man. According to al-Bakri in the 11th century in Dajaru, the starting point of the trail to Canaan via the Fasan, there lived a large population of Jews. Benjamin of Tudela, 1173, from Aswan to Halawan, where there are some 300 Jews. From there, they traveled for 50 days by caravan through the desert called Sahara to the city of Zavala, or called Havilah in the scriptures, into the land of Ghana. This land is located on the western side of Kush, which is called Al-Hasbe. Page number 107. We went over this. All this plausibility suggests an uninterrupted chain of Jewish colonies up to the border of the Sahara. All this possibility suggests an uninterrupted chain of Jewish colonies up to the border of the Sahara. Let me read it one more time. All this plausibility suggests an uninterrupted chain of Jewish colonies up to the border of the Sahara. This is Edith Bruder writing this. This is her thoughts on what she's quoting. One could suppose that the Jews of the Saharan caravans who traveled down towards Senegal and Niger were certain to meet communities of co-religionists, meaning other Jews, in Senegal and Niger. That's page number 107. All right, let's deal with the legend of the Balfour. In Mauritania, according to the Arab sources and certain oral traditions of Western Africa, the first inhabitants of Western Africa were the Balfour, whose Jewish origin is enigmatic and controversial. Following a process of organization, functioning, and decline of all Sudanese empires described by Charles Montel, one might assume that the Balfour existed several centuries before Islam. These Balfour seem to have introduced the cultivation of palm trees, horse breeding, new irrigation methods, and metallurgy. Isn't that what we brought up earlier? In the style of irrigation methods and pipes that they used was the style that we find in Mesopotamia. According to a tradition reported by Andre J. Lucas, the Balfour were the first ones to plant palm trees and to dig deep and large wells. The Mu'allim craftsmen make and have always made work of art. They are called Yahud because, according to legend, only Jews in Mauritania were craftsmen. And you know that the Mu'allim have neither homeland nor tribe. That's page number 108. This tradition is also mentioned in the Quartus of Ibn al-Bizar, who noted the presence of Jews of Arab origin in a place called Teklessin, which resisted the Almoravids. In the Middle Ages, according to Ibn al-Bizar, the name of the Baghara Wangadas designated both the region located on the upper Senegal and its inhabitants. These people waged war against the Sanhaha neighbors, who were Berbers converted to Islam. These tribes lived in the neighborhood of Teklessin. They were Arabs and practiced the Jewish religion. Page number 108. Al-Idrisi's testimony informs us that the Balfour spread out in the west of Mauritania and on the Atlantic coast when they were persecuted by the Almoravids. To this important Balfour dispersion of the Judaized blacks of Adrar and Tagant, one must add the Balfour fraction that lives on fish on the coast. According to Charles Montel, the repression first by the Almoravids, then more pronouncedly in the 16th century, pushed a part of the Judaized Balfour to the south of the Senegal River, where they are thought to merge with the Wolof populations and were named the Sebi Bayor by the pool. The oral traditions that present the fishermen of the Mauritanian coast, the Maragouan, Shagnala, and the Aloued Ahmed Ben Daman as descendants of the ancient Balfour corroborates Al-Idrisi's account, and observers noted that they concealed their Jewish origin. Why were they concealing their Jewish origin? Because of Muslim persecution. But the major point is that these Jews had a historical presence in sub-Saharan Africa, in the Niger Bend, in the Niger Basin, in Senegal, amongst the Wolof population. And I thought these niggas read this book. What happened? Somebody talk to me. Let's keep going. Page 108 to 109. Al-Idrisi provides us substantial information about the presence of Jews near the country of the gold in Western Sudan, or present-day Mali. There are only two cities in this land of Lamlam which are not larger than villages. One is called Mala and the other Dal. According to the people of this region, the inhabitants are Jews. According to the people of this region, the inhabitants are Jews, but most of them are submerged in impiety and ignorance. He adds, the inhabitants of Camnuria following the sayings of the merchants, claims to be Jews. Their beliefs are a mixture of everything. They are nothing and have no well-established belief. And that's another thing we have to bring up. Oh, so is the Jewish culture, blah, 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 blah. The Jewish culture this, Jewish culture that. Many of these people were victims of acculturation and culturation. And in syncretism, they would mix their beliefs with the local beliefs. And that's what was going on. And that's what Al-Idrisi tells you. Again, the inhabitants of Camnuria, following the sayings of merchants, claim to be Jews. Their beliefs are a mixture of everything. They are nothing and have no well-established belief. Information from his contemporary Al-Zuhri, who probably quoted his predecessor's work, supports the account of Al-Idrisi. The inhabitants of Khartoum in the region of Timbuktu follow the Jewish religion. One can get there from Gayo and Wargala. They read the Torah. They import silk. Well, the Torah is the Torah. They import silk cloth, saffron, tinted goods, or tar, Karis, and pearls. Page number 109. So these Jews was top of the line too. You know, some of these Jews were dealing with trade. They were top of the line. That's our ancestors, man. That's what we venerate over here, man. They was top of the line, trading pearls, trading salt, introducing technology that the sub-Saharan African area was not accustomed to before they came there. You understand? These were top of the line niggas. All right.
New cars for the whole crew. I'm so top of the line, nigga. I don't know what to do. I bought fresh a Lamborghini and me a Lotus, fool. I got the jacuzzi, nigga, in the back of the truck. Running water for your daughter when she wanna get bucked. Cable satellite dish, Sony remote. Benson sold me the truck, Coleman sold me the book. I got some shit on my finger that'll blind the crowd. I got some shit in my truck that's way too loud. I'm the most looked at in the year 98. Y'all got to love me, baby. Don't I look great? God gave me the gift, so I'ma share it, y'all. Like Michael Jordan, y'all gon' see me ball.
1 million, 2 million, 3. Oh, it's my fault. Yeah, nigga with the gold heart. Lexus automatic start. I shine like 18 and sparkle like a bezel. Riding up your block in the fully loaded Lexus. Play the navigator on road, but that's for tomorrow though. Shagging a 400 with Fat Julius and Mario. Yeah, slut, that's me. In the GS3, so play the back seat, suck on the meat, watch your teeth, and wipe your feet before you step on the bell. Ding dong, rock your bell, work your meal, so what the hell? What? Like my smile, $3 million grin? What? This me, plain, introduce me to your friend. It's all gravy, baby. Hot boy, you should know it, and I'm Mercedes, baby. That's beautiful. Look, I'm Lois, bruh. Be flying up and down the lake on CDRs, bruh. In my garage, up at my place, I got 4 cars, bruh. I swear, me and my brothers be superstars, bruh. But look, it's small, but look, you see, I bloop, bust like a bottom of wet. Go cash about 4 checks, your wife try get more wet. I sticks to the code, Reeboks and hit your bows. It's all about the mail, Bezos, diamonds, and gold. Say, Woody.
Y'all niggas need to have diamonds like me. Woody. Check the wood grain in the Humvee.
Woody.
See these niggas playing with 6 figures.
Woody.
Top of the line type niggas.
Woody.
Y'all don't handle diamonds like me.
Woody.
I don't think you drive a Humvee.
Woody.
I'm playing with 6 figures.
Woody.
Running with top of the line type niggas.
These was top of line type niggas, man. And that's why y'all mad, man, because we venerate and honor those that was flexing, and they had the gold, they had the pearl, they were trading in salt, they had it going on, man. They was getting their shine on, man. Let's get it, man. All right, as was stated, let's deal with Raymond Marni, who considers that these black groups were probably Suniki. These people claiming to be Jews were probably the Suniki people. That's what he's saying, who were conquered and dispersals by neighbor Berbers and who were not really Islamicized in the time of Al-Idrisi. These Suniki simply declared themselves Jews. Thus, the people of the book and such were only subject to a special tax, the Kharaj, whereas had they been called heathens, they would sooner or later have been condemned to slavery. And that's a big thing too. They was enslaving people if they were given the title. To call themselves Jews suggests that Suniki must have some knowledge of Jews south of the Sahara. And that's according to Raymond Marni. His hypothesis is they would call them, these Suniki people identify themselves as Jews. deal with it. Page number 109. Let's keep going. The Tariq al-Fattash also mentions the existence of a colony of Banu Israel living at Tenderma in the southeast of Timbuktu. In the place where the city of Tenderma was founded in 1496, an Israelite population had formerly lived whose wells and tombs still remain. These Jews who inhabited the place until the 15th century lived on agriculture and had dug wells because they grew vegetables which they sold, and of which merchants paid them considerable amounts of money. Like I said, these top of the line niggas. Page 109, 110. Let's get it. This small Jewish colony would have been condemned in the 15th century by the decision taken at the instigation of al-Maghili, who already exterminated the Jews from Tuat and convinced the Askia Muhammad, the ruler of Timbuktu, forbidding Jews to enter his territory, which at that time covered the entire Sahelian region. The evidence of later travelers supports the existence of a Jewish presence in West Africa. At the end of the 18th century, the Scottish explorer Mungo Park noted the presence of Jews in the region of Timbuktu under the protection of the Tuareg and Moors, from whom they were indistinguishable. So these were all black people here. Right? It seems that they practiced Islam in the appearance only, and that ensured their ethnic continuity through endogamy. So they only married within their close group. All right. Page number 110. Mungo Park's testimony is supported by a later 19th century source, Mardoche Abi Saror, a traveling rabbi and a travel companion of Charles de Foucauld, was offered hospitality by a tribe, the Dagatun, who lived among the Willie Medin Tuareg and who claimed Jewish origin. They freely asserted their ancient Jewish identity before the Al-Wili Medine, of whom they were vassals. The testimony of the Dagatun, whose customs otherwise showed no trace of Jewish traditions, recalls the epic of the Tawati Jews and their possible in the desert. Page number 110. Let's keep going. Such as the Ida Washak, sons of Isaac, the Igdalin, the Enhaden, reputed to be of Jewish origin. According to Henry Lotte, the Enhaden are descendants of the Jews of Tuat, where they practice the craft of smiths or jewelers. The Enhaden are the artisans caste of the Tuareg. Page number 110 as well. Farther south in Sudan, the existence of a small Jewish community is noted by Valentin Fernandez in the beginning of the 16th century in his Districtio. In the Walata, there were very rich and oppressed Jews who are either peddlers of goats or goldsmiths or jewelers. Again, top of the line niggas. In another passage, Fernandez also tells of the presence of Jews farther west. In this country, Wolof country, and in Mandinga, there are Jews, and they are called Gwal, and they are black like the people of the country. However, they do not have synagogues and do not practice the ceremonies of other Jews. They live separately from other blacks in their villages. Their Gwal are often jesters. So again, more attestation to Jews being in sub-Saharan Africa amongst the Wolofs in the Wolof country in the Mandinga. There you have it. J. Munsters, who affirmed in 1500, some of them blacks are Jewish. They are called Garal in their language and are much hated. Let me read that again. Some of them blacks are Jewish. I know those two words in the same sentence strikes fear in the heart of a pseudo. Some of them blacks are Jewish. They are called Garal in their language and are much hated. Where do they live? They lived in the Wolof country, in the Mandinga areas, and they were black. Okay, so let's keep going. Page number 111. The most obvious evidence, however, of the economic activity in North African Jews of their roles in trans-Saharan trade and their presence in sub-Saharan Africa is found in the Majorcan Jewish geographers' portolans of the 14th and 15th centuries. In the 14th and 15th centuries in the Balearic Islands, a center of studies flourished that provided scientific equipment for navigators such as astrolabes, compasses, and world maps. Majorcan cartographers Angelino Dussert Abraham and Yehuda Cresques, Messiah Veladestes, and Petrus Rosselli were all Jewish or of Jewish origin. It seems likely that links between Spanish Jews, particularly those of the Balearic Islands, and their co-religionists of the Saharan edge of Africa. Charles de la Renaussière informs us when the Majorcans began to make maps in the 14th century, they had first-hand information on the interior of the Black continent, where other Jews were trading from South Moroccan or Algerian cities, with the country situated in the south of the Sahara, and particularly the Empire of Mali. So these Jews were able to draw maps with precisions, with geographical precision, because they were familiar with the area. They was familiar with the geography of West Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, because we were known for trading and going across the trade routes and going in and out of Africa at this point. So what better cartographer or map maker would you get than a Jew? Which is powerful attestation to our presence in Sub-Saharan Africa. And this is why Edith Bruder put it in her book. She said this is the most obvious evidence. The most obvious evidence is the fact that the first accurate, geographical accurate maps come from Jews of Sub-Saharan Africa. In 1339, Angelo Dussert's map revealed the location of Mali and Walata, as well as the existence of a Rex Melli rich in gold. While Catalan Atlas of Abraham Cresques in 1375 indicated the location of Timbuk, which is Timbuktu, for de la Renaussière, who devoted himself to a comparison of the maps developed them during the Middle Ages. The astonishing precision of details provided by the Majorcan geographers could only come from their Saharan informers, the Jewish caravaneers who traveled back and forth across the desert. Their maps were not limited to a political description of the countries located south of the Sahara based on Arab geographers. When we examine the maps of Africa produced by the Majorcan workshops and compare them with Arabian maps, we can immediately see an essential difference. The formal detailed caravan routes and routes familiar to Jews, whereas the latter are designed for political purposes. Majorcan maps have a flexibility of expression that attests to close contact with reality. Again, the Majorcan maps show and prove that the Jews were present in Sub-Saharan Africa because they were able to precisely map out that area. Page number 111 and 112. Did you niggas read this damn book? Let's go. Exhibiting very clear advances and comparisons with former maps, Majorcan Portolans gave detailed information about the main caravan routed and the names of the main Saharan and Sudanese sites. Thus, in 1439, Angelino Dussert was able to locate Mali as well as Walata. His planisphere also indicates the trail connecting Sigil Massa to Walata via Buda and Tuat, which was used only as of the 14th century for safety reasons. The high point of knowledge on the interior of the African continent was reached with the Catalan Atlas by Abraham Cresques, which was used in large part by Messiah of Veladestes, 1413, and Gabriel of Valeskai Ibn Krish, 1439, departing from the Dra, which is crossed by the traders who entered the land of Guinea's Negroes. Page number 112. Again, how they have this knowledge. How do they know to draw these maps with that much geographical precision? Because the Jews were known for trading in and out of these places, running all around Sub-Saharan Africa. That's what was going on, because it was top of the line niggas. Let's get it. Cresques went down to Sahara, a region inhabited by people with covered mouths and who make caravans with camels. Takahos is the first step of the voyage towards the country of Musa Melli, which is Mali, Lord of the Negroes of Guinea, the richest and noblest king of the whole region, so abounds the gold in his country. The Catalan Atlas also indicated the stopping points of the Sigil Massa Timbuktu trail via Takhasa and the location of Gayo and Sokoto. Page 112. One might also consider that Jewish groups having imprecise contours had a long-standing presence in Ghana. Let me read that again. One might also consider that Jewish groups, so we know what we're talking about, the subject, Jewish groups, having imprecise contours, had a long-standing presence in Ghana and Mali until their destruction by the Almoravid in the 11th century. This is in Edith Bruder's book, page number 112 and 113. This book is substantiating what we've been saying this whole damn time off historical references that she's quoting and invoking in her arguments. Did you read this damn book? That's my question. Furthermore, if we take into account ancient sources showing that Jewish traders and caravaneers did indeed crisscross the Sahara, we can imagine how a kind of mythology of African Judaism might have been created. Further, if it's possible that centuries of Islamization would not necessarily obliterate some legacy of Judaism among the groups descended from these ancient Jews, in this case, some traces of Jewish culture might have survived in the subterranean memory of individuals of groups, as suggested in general by Freud. This mental process, which is similar to Freud's return of the repressed, by which repressed elements are never entirely destroyed and reappear in a distorted way, might be at work and reveal surviving elements linked to ancient and repressed Jewish traditions. This is in her damn book. You know, matter of fact, let me shut the StreamYard down. I don't need to keep reading. Do I need to keep reading this? Should I don't even know what to do at this point. Like, should I keep reading? These Negroes had these books for years. Had this book, The Black Jews of Africa, History of Religion and Identity by Edith Bruder for years. Would claim that this book is supposed to be the destruction of the Hebrew community, the Black Hebrews. But when you actually open this, it substantiates our arguments. It substantiates our arguments. But Negroes don't like to read. You understand? This is the importance of reading, man. This is the significance of reading, and this is why I invoke it. Trying to combat the high illiteracy rates amongst Negroes, African Americans.
Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere, friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow.
Reading Rainbow, take a look. It's in a book. Reading Rainbow. You Negroes need to read, man. That's what's wrong with y'all. Y'all don't read. You don't like to read. Oh, it's boring. Well, just stop talking about the subject matter because you haven't did the study to even speak on these things. Let's keep reading. Traces of Judaism were found in 1950s among these populations by Charles Montel, who asserts that the Marabouts possessed Jewish books translated into Arabic, which they use as a source of occult science. Montel also collected a number of legends, which according to him have a direct Hebrew origin, and he noted that the most noble and most humble fractions of the Sudanese people still assert that they are descendants of Jews. This is in the 1950s. So they still assert these things. And when we go to Freud, however you say the brother's name, F-R-E-U-D, he talks about a return of the repressed. A lot of these things have been repressed so long that maybe these things are coming back up in the cultural memory of these individuals. Because the years of repression through Islamization, the years of repression through the Inquisition, and so on and so forth. Dirk Lane, a professor of African history at the University of Bayreuth in Germany, using hitherto unexplored sources, presents the development of the West African empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai from a new perspective of ethnogenesis. He maintains that the main clan and state structure of several West African kingdoms are based on the same dualistic pattern as that of the Canaanite, Israelite, and hence also Phoenician societies, supported by written records, oral tradition, and cult dramatic performances. These similarities suggest the existence of early trans-Saharan contacts reaching back to the pre-Roman period. The Phoenician trade appears to have been the single most important factor explaining the transfer of these organizational forms from North Africa to sub-Saharan regions, where they could be particularly particularly prominent in the Hausa and Yoruba societies. Page number 113. The Hausa and Yoruba traditions are considered by Lang as a phenomenon of longue durée that can be traced back to an Israelite model based on Canaanite antecedents. According to Lang, similar social institutions were transmitted from the Semitic world to the Horn of Africa as a result of the ancient myrrh and frankincense trade. And some of these polities grew so powerful that they conquered and controlled a number of kingdoms in West and East Africa. Although these ideas have been branded as diffusionist and Hamitic, Lang's approach to Africa's regional history is a bold attempt to place East and West Africa kingdoms in the context of ancient Near Eastern history and culture. Lang's hypothesis represents a real challenge to the present paradigm of African history and opens up a new perspectives for research. It's page 113. All right, now we're moving to the Jewish presence on the West African coast and islands. The Cape Verde Islands, which had been discovered between 1455 and 1462, were from 1472 essentially a slave trading place, restricting to an exclusive monopoly of the Portuguese crown. Despite the important role of Portuguese Jews in commerce, navigation, and cartography of Africa as early as 1480, they faced profound oppression during the Spanish and Portuguese Inquisitions when they became termed Moranos, or Judíos Secretos, secret Jews. It was, however, in 1492 that the Spanish Inquisition developed its fullest expression of anti-Semitism, which quickly spread to Portugal. In 1496, King Manuel I of Portugal decided to exile thousands of Jews to Sao Tome, Príncipe, and Cape Verde. Those who were not expelled were converted by force or executed. In the 16th century, during the persecution of the Jews in Portugal, an entire colony came to settle in Cape Verde, despite the opposition of Philip III of Spain, then King of Portugal. That's page number 114. Those traders, usually called Lancados, were often but not always of Jewish origin. The term Lancados derived from the Portuguese verb to throw out and is related to outcast or fugitive roles in Portuguese African coastal commerce. By the early 1600s, Cape Verdeans Lancados had trading centers all along the Senegambian coast as places such as Gari and Joel, Portuguese town in Gambia, and Zincor and the Casamance, and further down the Guyanan coast. In 1614, the governor of Cape Verde recorded that the greatest number of Lancados were Jews. Jews from Cape Verde in Portugal were already known in Joal as early as 1591, and a synagogue was noted there in 1641 by Jorge de Castillo, governor of Cape Verde. In 1606, in Portugal, and according to Father Balthazar Barreira on the Senegalese coast, there were 100 Portuguese following the laws of Moses. In 1622, the Cape Verdean governor Don Francisco de Moura reported to the Portuguese king that the Guinea coastal rivers were full of Jews who were masters of the local regions and were quite independent of the crown. That was in 1622. Page number 114. In the 17th century, while retaining their bases in the Cape Verde Islands and in Guinea, the Portuguese withdrew from Senegambia. During this period, the term Ganagoga, which named people who are able to speak many local languages, was used in Upper Guinea and Cape Verde region to imply Jewish Lancados. Even if the anti-Semitism of Spain and Portugal and the financial interests of the Portuguese crown were constantly trying to restrict their success, Jewish Lancados played a central role in the economy and society. Because of their collaborative relation with African cultures and the fact that they had African wives, their multiracial and multicultural identity contributed widely to the cultural linguistic mixture that the Cape Verdean Creole culture. Page 115. In 1698, a testimony of the French traveler Lamar confirmed the intermixing of Jews in the local population, the second generation being more mixed and superficially converted to Catholicism. Other than these groups, There is one that is kind of Portuguese, mulattoes people call them so because they had served them in the past and because they are descendants of the first inhabitants of this coast. From the Negro women they married, mulattoes were born. As they followed the religion of their former masters, they are part Jew, part Catholic, not more one than the other. So you have these results of Jews marrying these Negro women on the coast of Africa in Cape Verde, and these people saw the descendants of these people and individuals. 1698. Historically, Jews first came to the island of Santiago during the Inquisition and were confined to a separate community in Praia. From the 19th century, other Jews of Moroccan origin joined this colony. There are still traces of their presence in the village of Santo Antão, located on the northern coast, where a village named Synagoga evokes an ancient Jewish presence. A number of steles and Hebrew inscriptions discovered in the Boa Vista and the Ponta da Sol cemeteries indicate that Jews, probably immigrants from Morocco, lived on this island in the 19th century. Page number 115. Traces of Jewish presence are to be found too in Sao Tome. The Sao Tome Islands were discovered in 1472, probably devoid of native populations. It seems that King John II then offered the Jews of his kingdoms the alternative of converting to Catholicism or immigrating to Sao Tome. Reed wrote, John II of Portugal in 1484, finding that the climate of Sao Tome was so unhealthy, gave the Jews in his kingdom the agreeable choice of being baptized or of colonizing Sao Tome and marrying women brought over from Angola. From this union arose a mixed race, which the Portuguese firmly perpetuated. Page number 115. King Manuel of Portugal, seeking funds to finance his program of colonial expansion, imposed huge taxes on the Jews with very little time to pay. When it was seen that there was very little likelihood that the majority of the Jews would pay this tax, 2,000 Jewish children, boys and girls, no more than 8 years old, were separated from their parents and deported there, where the majority of them died from starvation and illness. We learned from some sources that Alvaro de Caminha, the governor of Sao Tome, managed to save 600 children by sending them with African nannies to the island of Principe and to Rio Reale. Nevertheless, a testimony of Francisco Coelho in 1669 asserts that afterward the Jews who lived in these islands enjoyed a certain freedom. They are assigned the introduction of coca coming from Brazil and Prince Island in Sao Tome, and without real evidence, they practiced some local dietary restrictions. They used the 6 branches star as a magic sign of Nigeria, and some features of Kabbalistic numerology, some ritual details. This is 1669 now. Still dealing with Sao Tome, page number 116. The presence of descendants of Jews in Sao Tome up to the 20th century is supported by the testimony of M.D.W. Jeffries, an official who completed an assignment in the region in 1936. Jeffrey reported that there existed a small group indistinguishable from others, but who claimed a separate origin. What does it mean, indistinguishable from others? They had the Negroid, quote-unquote, Africoid look. They claimed to be of Jewish descent. Their names were particularly Jewish, and though their males were circumcised, that they did not set them apart because the males of other groups were circumcised. They were also light complexion. He added the story of the natives had a substratum of truth. They no doubt were descendants of the Jewish colonies settled in Sao Tome some 350 years earlier. This is in the 20th century, 1936. Page number 116. So this is modern times. So what I'm going to do after this, I know I got it here somewhere. We're going to look at a DNA chart on Sao Tome, which is going to surprise you. It says several evidence confirmed to the presence of Jewish Lancados or of their descendants on the coast of Western Africa. A 17th century text by Francisco de Lemos Coelho on the description of the coast of Guinea indicates that many Jews born in Portugal lived there, owning very large houses, and went there to practice their religion because the kings of the country protected them in the fact they could not be punished. Coelho also reports that in Rufisque, Senegal, many Jews, some of whom came from the north, owning trading houses, and that they were rather disdained by both Africans and residents. They also paid more taxes than other whites, but they were resigned to do so in order to live according to their laws. They left descendants in this country resulting from relationships with the Negresses, who were Jewish like themselves, but thanks to divine mercy, they converted to the Catholic Church in my time. So this is 17th century, witnessing Jews, Spanish Jews, Sephardim in Senegal. Let's keep going. Among the travelers who noted a Jewish presence in the coast of Guinea, John Alighieri wrote in the book of Africa published in a book on Africa published in 1679, many Jews are also scattered over the regions. Some natives boasting themselves of Abraham's seeds inhabit both parts of the river Niger. Others are Asian strangers who fled thither either from the desolation of Jerusalem by Vespasian or from Judea, wasted and depopulated by Romans, Persians, Saracens, and Christians, or else such as came out of Europe whence they were banished. Pages 116 to 117. Now we're going to look at the Sao Tome DNA because we've seen in 1936 a man visited Sao Tome, spoke to the natives there, and they invoked a Jewish history. They said they were Jews. Now let's look at the DNA because that's close to our time period. It's 2021, 1936. That's about what, 80 years ago, 80, 90 years ago. That's not too far away from us. So if we look at Sao Tome Y DNA that they took, it says, although the major proportion of the founding population of Sao Tome E Principe cluster and haplogroup E3A. E3A is E1B1A, 84.2%, very common among sub-Saharans. Why is this important? Because majority of the people that was coming here were males, and these males were mixing with local African women from Angola and the coast of Guinea. So that why DNA that was being passed down can be postulated to be E1B1A, because when we look at Sao Tome, 84.2% represents the males there. So that's an argument there. You understand? Now in Cabo Verde and Cape Verde is 15.9%. You understand? But that's due to haplogroup I and J and R coming in from Morocco and so on and so forth. But when you look at Sao Tome, it's largely and dominated by E1B1A. And we've seen the study. We've seen the guy witness it. Let me go back to the slide. This is from Science Direct, by the way. But when we go back to the slide right here, the presence of descendants of Jews in Sao Tome up to the 20th century is supported by the testimony of MDW Jeffries, an official who completed an assignment in the region in 1936. And he basically said a small group indistinguishable from others, but who claim a separate origin. They claim to be of Jewish descent. And then when we look at the DNA today, right? When we look at the DNA, let me get it. 84% E3A, which is E1B1A, which is very common among sub-Saharans. All right, and this is Sao Tome in Principe. All right, so I thought that was a very poignant and pivotal point. And this, the source is Y chromosome lineages in Sao Tome, E Principe, and Cabo Verde Islands, different input of European influences by Rita Goncalves. All right. And you can find an article on Science Direct. All right, let me check the temperature of the room before I keep reading, man. What's going on, man? Hey, shout out to everybody, man. 30 people watching. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe to the channel. And share the video on the various social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or what have you. All right, let's get it, man. Hit that like button. In the 19th century, David Livingstone reported a colony of educated blacks 200 miles in the interior of St. Paul of Luanda in Ambaka, whom he called the Jews of Angola. This region, like Sao Tome, had the function of being a colony for undesirable Portuguese of all kinds. These Jews of Angola were remarkable traders, esteemed as clerks and writers, and they knew well the history of Portugal and Portuguese laws. Their commercial expeditions took them hundreds of miles into the interior of the country, and they knew the region long before the arrival of the Jesuits, who paid little attention to the presence of Jews in this area. On the Cabinda coast in Portuguese West Africa, another black group called Mavumba, recognized as renowned potters, was considered by Ratzel as descendants of Jews expelled from Portugal and deported to Sao Tome. So these people are clerks, remarkable traders. Like I've been telling y'all, man, top of the line niggas. You understand? Our history is great, man. When we venerate our ancestors, we venerate them right, man. Top of the line nigga.
New cars for the whole crew. I'm so top of the line, nigga. I don't know what to do. I bought fresh a Lamborghini, me a Lotus, fool. I got the jacuzzi, nigga, in the back of the truck. Running water for your daughter when she wanna get bucked. Cable satellite dish, Sony remote. Benson sold me the truck, Coleman sold me the book. I got some shit on my finger that'll blind the crowd. I got some shit in my truck that's way too loud. I'm the most looked at in the year 98. Y'all got to love me, baby. Don't I look great? God gave me the gift, so I'ma share it, y'all. Like Michael Jordan, y'all gon' see me ball.
1 million, 2 million, 3. Oh, it's my fault. Yeah, nigga with the go hard. Lexus automatic start. I shine like 18 and sparkle like a bezel. Riding up your block in the fully loaded Lexus. Play the navigator on road, but that's for tomorrow though. Shagging a 400 with Fat Julius and Mario. Yeah, slut, that's me in the GS3. So play the back seat, suck on the meat. Watch your teeth and wipe your feet before you step on the bell. Ding dong, rock your bell, work your meal. So what the hell? What? Like my smile? $3 million grin? What? This me plain. Introduce me to your friend. It's all gravy, baby. Hot boy, you should know it. And I'm Mercedes, baby. That's beautiful. Look, I'm Lois, bruh. Be flying up and down the lake on CDRs, bruh. In my garage, up at my place, I got 4 cars, bruh. I swear, me and my brothers be superstars, bruh. But look, it's marvelous. You see, I bust like a bottom of wet. Go cash about 4 checks, your wife try get more wet. I sticks to the code. Reeboks and hit your bows. It's all about the mail, Bezos, diamonds, and gold. Say, Woody.
Y'all niggas need to have diamonds like me. Woody. Check the wood grain in a Humvee.
Woody.
See these niggas playing with 6 figures.
Woody.
Top of the line type niggas.
Woody.
Y'all don't handle diamonds like me.
Woody.
I don't think you drive a Humvee.
Woody.
I'm playing with 6 figures.
Woody.
Running with top of the line type niggas.
We running with top of the line type niggas, man. Choose, man. Rich and oppressed. You know what I'm saying? Rich and oppressed. That was the words that was found in here, man. You know how we rocking, man. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get it. Let's get it. All right, so again, we left off on page 117. Let's get it. Gabi mentions that Adolf Bastian, who participated in the German Luongo expedition of 1873 to 1876 on the coast of Congo, observed blacks who were called Judeos by the Portuguese. He found among them certain characteristics generally assigned to Jews and described them as grave and reserved, and when compared to other blacks, and wealthy because they control most of the trade. Top of the line, like I said. Right there, page number 117. The Jews in Luongo. We already know about the Jews in Luongo. Shout out to Tudor Parfit in his book Hybrid Hate. He highlights the Jews of Luongo, Oldendorf's account, which is historical. There's no way around that. They were there. Let's keep going. Another indication comes from the sentence of the Guinean black named Pedro Alvarez, who was tried at the age of 100 because he asserted that all men should be circumcised. The judgment handed down in this case was such an error in the Negro and of the age of 100 deserved exemplary punishment had he not died during the process and thus escaped punishment. So they had this black from Guinea named Pedro Alvarez, which believed at the age of 100 that all men should be circumcised. It's obviously a Jewish imprint. The presence of Jewish traders and mixed race traders living with African communities in the islands and on the West African coast seems to be a short chapter in the history of these regions. This suggests long historical roots, which can continue to play a role in the survival of Jewish cultural identity in these regions and elsewhere. Due to the Atlantic slave trade, there probably could be African Portuguese populations in the Caribbean islands, similar to and linked to with those in Africa. The wealth of religious freedom, higher instruction level, and proselytism of Jews may have been interacting influences that nurtured the myth of the Jewish ancestry among some African American Jewish societies and sowed the seeds of the Black Jew movement. And you know what's interesting about that? Earlier in her book, she talks about Marcus Garvey and these other influencers coming from the Caribbean, and the Caribbean being rich with this Jewish ideology of these blacks being Jews. John Bigelow witnesses the Negroid Jews of Jamaica. The Caramontans of Jamaica identified with Jews. We have historical attestation for that. And then we see these people coming from the Caribbean, teaching in New York or teaching in early 20th century localities that we are Jews. So she's saying, okay, maybe this is where the African-American Jewish movement came from. These people coming from Caribbean, which were African Portuguese, which would make them Luso-Africans, which would make them Sephardim. You see how that worked? Sephardic Jews. Let's get it. It is the claim of Jewishness of the Limba people of Southern Africa intriguing in historical terms. The Limba are a Black Southern African Bantu-speaking group of 50,000 to 70,000 people who live in the southern, central, and eastern parts of Zimbabwe and in the northeast South Africa. According to oral history, the Limba came from Judea, Egypt, Yemen, or Ethiopia. Professor M.E.R. Mativha, the late president of the Limba Cultural Association, LCA, suggested that the Jewish ancestors of the Limba migrated as traders in the 7th century BC from the north of the Yemen, where they established their community in Sinna. It's page 119. The Jewish community of Sinna, or Basina, was supposedly expanded by the Jews who escaped the Babylonian exile of 586 BC and traded with Phoenician merchants in the Orient in Africa. From Sinna, they crossed into Africa through the indefinable Pusela, moving down the coast, building great cities in Zimbabwe until finally settling in the northern part of South Africa. Additionally, the Limba assert Jewish identity through their customs of circumcision, prohibitions, and ritual slaughter of animals. The tradition of an origin outside Africa differs from the clan to clan, but all of those who have observed them agree that they have undergone Hebrew Jewish influences and that in the past they had contact with Muslims. So real quick, we want to talk about the Limba. Majority of the Limba E3A, E1, B1A, okay? And these people have a legend of them coming from the Levant, coming from Sinna, and then eventually making their way down South Africa. EU29 is amongst them, which is my DNA. Goes back to these Bantu people. People are largely E1B1A. We're related to these people, so therefore we have genetic ties to the ancient Jewish legacy. In 1967, Gary of Gary, who had been the editor of the racist journal The Mankind Quarterly in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, affirmed that the Limba's history can specifically be traced back to pre-Islamic Sheba of Yemen, who was converted to Judaism. In his book, The Origin of the Great Zimbabwe Civilization, he further argued that the Limba have Jewish cultural and genetic traits that can only have been acquired from Judaized Sabians who settled in the region thousands of years ago. The probability against coincidence is so great that we have to accept the fact that the Limbas observe the Mosaic Code and that we have to explain to occurrence among his small tribes of traders who have the Caucasoid genes and live in northern Transvaal and some adjacent parts of Rhodesia. Moreover, only the Limba bleed animals to death as enjoined by the Mosaic Code, and this act is restricted to the circumcised. 1967 and 1972. This guy witnessed this, and he's like, oh, come on, man. We just gonna have to wake up and smell the coffee on this. These people are keeping the Mosaic Law. This is page number 120. According to Parfit, however, there are cogent grounds for considering that the Limba's ancestors came from southern Arabia, perhaps the city of Sina and Hadramut, which had a tradition of migrations to Africa. Jews had been living in the Arabian Peninsula for centuries before the time of Muhammad. Arabia, around the last part of the Second Temple period, were found in considerable numbers in Arabia. Let's just say Jews around the last part. The Black Jews of Africa, page number 120. We know that the fertile oasis of Yathrib in Arabia had been settled by Jews organized into tribes who constituted the majority of the population and probably gave its name to Al-Medina, that is Medina. When Muhammad came to Medina, they were forced to sell their properties and leave the area. What became of them afterward is not at all clear. Jewish influence in Arabian pre-Islamic period was significant enough to play an important role in classical Arabic historiography. That's page 121. Dunawas, king of Himyar, was allegedly converted to Judaism by his father. So he was converted to Judaism, but it was by his father. I mean, his father had to be a Jew. It says Abu Kariba, circa 385-420. Abu Kariba himself had converted early under the influence of some Jews who assisted him in a campaign against Persia and some Arabian provinces of Byzantium. The anonymous work of the Perpolis of the Erythraean Sea from the 1st century AD provides information on the very early pre-Islamic Arab influences in East Africa. The Perpolis records that the Sabians, pre-Islamic Arabian Yemenites, were one of the great Semitic powers in ancient times and were involved in all settlement and exploitation of the coast of East Africa, where they exchanged spears, axes, knives, and glassware for ivory and tortoise shells. It has been supposed that the fabulous Sayuna of the Arab geographers was indeed the Sina of the Zambezi. While it is interesting to recall that the name Sayuna is very similar to the normative Arab word for Zion and identical to the Judeo-Arabic, the former Arabic used by the Jews. So what she's pointing out is that that word Sayuna or Sina could actually be a metathesis of the word Zion. Upon their arrival, the Portuguese described the inhabitants of Sofala and those of the settlements at Sina and on Zambezi as Moors. According to Antonio de Saldanha in 1511, there were some 10,000 Moors living in the Sofala hinterland, Dian Beach. The author of A History of the Shona notes that the Portuguese documents of the 18th century frequently referred to Moros who traded in the country, and that this term was often translated by Arabs or Swahili. Duarte Barbarossa, writing in the 16th century, noted these Moors of Sofala are black men, some olive skin, who use the tongue of the land, which is that of the Gentiles. They speak some Arabic. That was page 122. As Parfit wrote, those non-Bantu elements in the Sofala-Sina hinterland never made any attempt, as far as we know, to contact the strong Muslim community of the north, nor did they acquire or reacquire the Quran. As the Lemmer so often maintained, their book was lost. So these people was not Islamic at this time. They were not trying to get acquainted with the Quran or reacquainted with the Quran. And like he brought up, the Lemmer said that the book that they adhered to was no longer there and it was lost. It says a report from an African named Mahumani provides more information about them and tells us that from the beginning of the 18th century to the second half of the 19th century, political and cultural changes came from outside. He said the Walembers, which is the Limba, who are always coming here with those Intaweli, are a nation that lives up on top of the country of the Intaweli. The aforementioned Walembers were said to be rich in gold, too, and this nation was also doing trade with the Portuguese in the direction of the aforementioned Sina and Monica. Again, more top of the line niggas. That's what the Limbers was. 123. All traces of these putative Limba ancestors were lost thereafter. They possibly integrated into other groups where they filled the roles of goldsmiths, iron and copper workers, medicine men, and ritual experts. Notice a central theme here. These Jews coming into Western Africa and deep South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, they're goldsmiths, they're iron and copper workers. You understand? That's a central theme amongst all these people. They all share. Every Jewish group that we've been reading about that's in Africa are bringing the goldsmith and ironsmithing skills with them, metallurgy skills with them. It says these few hypotheses suggest that since ancient times, there could have been links between southern Arabia and southeast coast of Africa, including Madagascar. That's page number 123. In respects of Aneo, or one or more Jewish colonies in ancient Madagascar, the subject has been much debated due to the account of Etienne de Flacourt, 1652, reported that the discovery of the remnants of an ancient Jewish colony on the eastern coast of Madagascar. The people who I think were the earliest to come to Madagascar were the Zafri Ibrahim, or the Abraham lineage, since although they practice circumcision, they have no mark of Mohammedanism. No, neither Muhammad nor his caliphs, and consider their followers as kafris and men without law. They do not eat or conclude any alliance with them. They celebrate and do not work on Saturday, and not on Friday like the Moors, and no name similar to the ones they have. This leads me to think that their ancestors visited this island during the earliest migration of the Jews. They have maintained that the names of Moses, Isaac, Joseph, and Noah. It's page 124. Keene, who would write in the Go to Ophir in 1901 about the ancient links between Palestine and Madagascar, that people who preserve many Israelitish rites, usages, and traditions cherish the memory of Abraham, but have no knowledge of any of the prophets after the time of David, which implies Jewish immigrants left their home at a very remote date. In the 19th century, some missionaries of the London Missionary Society believed that all the Malagasy religious antecedents derived from the Hebrew religion itself, and that all Malagasy were supposed to be the descendants of Jews who came to Madagascar in the Phoenician ships. There is a consensus among modern scholars that navigation from Indonesia settled along the coast of East Africa. In fact, ancient accounts attest to the trading of migratory movements of Phoenician, Chinese Indians, Malays, Persians, Arabs, and Jews along the coast of southern Arabia, eastern Africa, and the Indian subcontinent. It can be postulated that many migrations into Madagascar took place. The presence of Idumean colonies or Arab Jews from Yemen in Madagascar may be considered. That's page 125. Father Mariano observed that the customs they kept were a testimony of their origin, that they were Moors, and that they called themselves Solimas, a derivation in modern Malagasy of Salamu or Islam. The first Arab ancestors are generally known in Madagascar as Antilaotra, or people from across the sea. It is likely that the first Arabs crossed the Mozambique Channel, where some of these pre-Islamic traders who had been pushed out of Arabia or Africa. They could have been members of one of such sects that broke away from the Orthodox Mohammedan faith during the turbulent times of Muhammad and his immediate successors, or Jews who had converted to Islam. Page number 27. This hypothesis suggests that the Antamoro and the Limba, who both reveal substantial Arabian Islamic influences, could share a common Semitic substratum. Most of the evidence that suggests that the past of such groups as the Limba in southern Africa or Antamoro descendants in Madagascar is connected with the Arab world. But there are also suggestions that early immigrants from Yemen could have been associated with the aforementioned Muslim followers of Sayyid ibn Ali, constituting altogether the Moorish people a kind of Judaic Arabic peoples described by historians and missionaries. Since pre-Islamic times, Arab Hebrews or Judaized Arab merchants could have migrated to the shores of Africa for trade, and then, after the arrival of the Prophet, for religious, political, or economical reasons. Thus, a Sabian or Yemenite involvement influence in Southeast Africa may have been possible. This seems to be confirmed by the recent genetic investigations carried out by the Limba, which suggests an extra African origin, out of African origin, without entirely allowing us to distinguish between the Jewish and Arab Semitic ancestry. Page number 131, I believe this is the final slide. Genetic research on the notions of origins, ancestry, and identity has during recent decades became interlaced with history, popular discourses, and myth. Genetic archaeology, the study of the detailed structure of DNA, is being used to gain a better understanding of relationships between populations separated by distance and time, and to enhance the knowledge of history not enlightened by documentary evidence. Page number 131. And this is also why we use DNA, because we can use DNA to track migration patterns, like we use with the Yoruba element being dated back to the Levant during the Israelite period, the Iron 2A period, that shows that we are part of the original Israelite cluster. That's why that's powerful. And that's why we invoke those studies in DNA and showing the relationship, like we showed earlier with Sao Tome in the 20th century, said there was still a considerable amount of Jews there. And when we look at the DNA, they're 84% E3A. We look at the Limbo, we can see that they have Eurasian gene flow because they picked up J and T. J and T are Eurasian markers. All right. So we know they came from somewhere in Eurasia and down into Africa, which conforms with their oral testimony of them coming from the Levant, from Palestine. After Nebuchadnezzar sacked the temple, they left Jerusalem, made it to Sinai, and then they eventually made their way down to South Africa, according to their oral testimony. And majority of the Limba are E3A, E1B1A. All right. And with that, that's the end of the chapter. Stay tuned for chapter 9. We're going to get it in. Hit that like button, man. Get that like button. So again, that chapter was going over the presence of Jews in sub-Saharan Africa. It used a plethora of historical references. I used a plethora of historical data, and at the end intertwine genetic findings as well to cement the Limba's place in history and cement their relationship towards Jews. And Tudor Parfit even says it best in his book. It's pretty much unassailable. There's nothing you can do about it. There's no attack against it. You just got to accept that as it is. It is what it is. You understand? The Black Jews of Africa by Edith Bruder. Next time, we will follow up with chapter 9 in the epilogue, and that will be the end of the book. It'll be complete. It'll be in the archives. It'll be a playlist. So if anybody want to go through the whole book, you can go part 1 through 5. Boom. You know what I'm saying? And you have the whole experience of Edith Bruder's highlights. But if you want to experience this book and read it page for page, like I did, you're going to have to purchase this book. I think this book's like $20. I think it's $20 to $30 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. D-Ray, who gives a fuck what they say? What did the book say? Everybody a convert that's black and everybody a real Jew that's white. Who cares what people say? Can you exemplify what you're saying? Who cares? What can you demonstrate? Niggas say anything. You know what I'm saying? Polite said he got abducted by aliens, and that's how he, you know what I'm saying, got all his knowledge and understanding of languages. So we're going to go off what everybody say. If they converts, what does the historical narrative say? Because what Edith Bruder said was there was an unbroken chain of Jewish settlements throughout Sahara. That was in our 8th chapter. Now, the 9th chapter is going to tease some people off. You understand? Because that's when we get into the Zakor. The Zakor and dealing with the records of, you know, those being Jews there in Timbuktu. So the chapter, what is it? Oh, we got 2 more chapters. We got chapter 9 and 10. So we'll do chapter 9 next time. I'll try to squeeze 10 in there and do the epilogue. So African Jews in Western and Central Africa is the next one. And we're going to deal with Nigeria. We're going to deal with places, the Sunghoy and stuff of that nature. Ishmael Hadara. Right here, I'm going to read a preview of it right here. In his book, Les Jews of Timbuktu, Hadar considers that the patronymic Kati is the result of an error of vocalization by translators of the Tariq el-Fatash, and that correct reading would be Kota, a name used by a number of converted Jews in Spain and Portugal. According to his research, the Kota family was forced to convert to Catholicism, then left Spain for Ceuta, Morocco around 1467. From there, they went to Algeria, then Mauritania, then Timbuktu. Sometime during this journey, the family converted to Islam and adopted the name Kati. The oral tradition of the Kershamba indicates Ishmael al-Yahudi as the ancestor of the Kati of Kermina. This Jew would have reached China through Morocco, Walata, and Kumiera. From him descended the famous Alpha Kota or Kati, who founded Kershamba and undertook the writing of the Tariq el-Fatash, the first historical work on the Niger Loop in 1519. Babakar Khalidi, the representative of Zakar and Kershambi, provides a variant to this account and notices that they all had the last name of the Jarumba, which is not recognized as a Songhai name, and which has the same meaning as Alahuduhu, which is Al-Yahudi, the Jew. So that's just a sneak preview of what we're going to be dealing with. That's Timbuktu and Mali. That's chapter 9. Dealing with the Sakor and the Jews, al-Bakri, some more statements by al-Idrisi. Says al-Bakri, al-Zurhai, and al-Idrisi signal a Jewish presence in the region of Timbuktu in the 13th century. Ibn Said and Ibn Abi Sa'd gives similar information. As seen earlier, the contribution of cartographic schools of Majorca in the 14th century provided convincing testimony on the precision of knowledge of the Sahara of the Jews. So again, the map makers show and prove that Jews inundated the Sahara. They were in West Africa. There's no way around that, man. So we're going to have fun with the next one, man. But in the meantime, what I'm going to be focusing throughout the week while I'm, putting these highlights into PowerPoint form, I am going to be reading David Rowe's book on the Exodus myth. What's that book called? The Exodus myth or fact or something like that. So we'll be reading that together here on the channel. We'll be bringing out that information, hopefully starting tomorrow. If not later on tonight, if I feel like it, I might go live and start opening up and read the prologue. You know how I do. You know how we get down here. But yeah, man, y'all in for a goodie on this. We're gonna continue to read chapter 9, and then we got 10, and then we got the epilogue. 10 is African Jews in Eastern and Southern Africa, and he deals with, again, they go into the Limba, more in depth about the Limba. Talks about the genes. The Rusapi, Zimbabwe, and then he deals with Madagascar. She deals with Madagascar again, and then it ends about. She just ends it totally with a discussion about the totality of these claims, the historical narratives, the DNA, the genetic information, the historical elements, the plausibility, the story of the Red Zebu, and so on and so forth. Yes, I did. Low Avenues. Matter of fact, I watched it this morning. I bought it. I think it was like $20. And this morning I was watching it. It was pretty good. The whole series is good, bro. Patterns and Evidence 1. Patterns and Evidence. Well, the first one is about the Exodus. The second one was the Moses controversy, and then the third one was the Red Sea crossing. So yeah, I just finished watching that actually before I went live. It's a good movie, man. Anytime, because you know why it's so good and so great is because you see the positive and negative arguments. Like he gives the scholars that don't believe in the Red Sea crossing, or the biblical minimalists that believe that it wasn't as fanciful as the Bible says it was, and then he gets the people that do believe it, and then he compares and contrasts. That's what makes that movie so great, that series so great. And I hope the next film that they shoot is about the wilderness and the conquest. You know what I'm saying? I would love to see them, dive deep into that area. I even got the book for the Patterns of Evidence Exodus, you know what I'm saying, on my Kindle app. And it's pretty much the information you get from the first movie, a lot of the quotes from the first movie, a lot of good stuff in that book. So, dealing with Teledaba, Ivoris, the fact that we know that Asiatic people were there, and the 12 graves, and one of the graves being like a pyramid, showing that whoever was buried there was of high reputation. He had a high reputation amongst the Egyptians to get a pyramid like tomb to be buried in. And they basically posit that that's actually Joseph's grave, and the 12 represent the 12 tribes. You know what I'm saying? So, man, that's what we're going to do later on this week. We're going to read David Rowe's book and his interpretation of the data on the Exodus. Because a lot of people think, ain't no evidence of the Exodus, ain't no blah, 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 and all this other bull job. But when you actually look at the evidence, there is evidence to give contextual plausibility. When they say ain't no evidence, they talking about direct evidence, where it will say, and the sons of Moses, and Moses and his sons, and the all of the Israelites, and have it all listed out, all the tribes of Israel left this day, and the Egyptians suffered a great defeat. They was washed up in the sea. No, we don't have anything like that. And in fact, the ancient Egyptians never recorded defeats like that. Why would they record defeats? When did they ever record defeats? Actually, they would record that they won wars that they actually lost. So you know how that goes down. When you look at the Merneptah style of writing, I killed them and their seed is no more. But then you look over there at their region, they still alive. These people still thriving. Like, they exaggerate it. So we don't expect to see direct records in Egypt saying we got our ass kicked, for lack of better phraseology. But anyway, that's what's going to come to the channel. We're going to read from cover to cover, hopefully, David Rowe's book. It's a big book. I think it's 600 some pages. So we'll read through that, here and there. I got the digital copy, so it's a lot easier than doing Edith Bruder's book on the Black Jews of Africa, where I literally have to type in my highlights into PowerPoint presentation and then, do the show for you guys. So if y'all just coming in, y'all missed a good one. We went over the Jewish presence in sub-Saharan Africa, which is the 8th chapter of Edith Bruder's book, The Black Jews of Africa. We read over here, man. We actually read over here. The people on the other side of the aisle, they haven't read this book. They do not read. And I prove it over and over again. Like the portion of chapter 8 where it talks about that you had a segment of Jews that were dealing with well boring, and the type of technology that they had and the structure that they had came from Mesopotamia. What does that show? Edemic diffusion. These people moved into sub-Saharan Africa and had knowledge and understanding that came from a different region. They haven't read this book, and it shows. Like I said, these guys skim the material. This book gives you a lot of historical references that point to the inhabitants of many of these localities of being Jews. You understand? Of being Jews. But the point is, the other side of the aisle, they're so biased against Jews, anything dealing with the Bible, that they will say things and they will make irrational claims and statements based upon that biased point of view. The Jews ain't never exist. Okay, but we have historical attestation to the Jew. We have stelae, the Kirk inscription, the Black obelisk, the Elissa inscription. We can go on and on and on. The Elephantine papyri. You understand? The 1st century, they were already established as Judea. Before it was called Palestine, it was renamed Palestine by the Roman Emperor Hadrian. But before then, it was Judea. So these places did exist. These people did exist. The Merneptah Stela, the British foot stellate, tells you that the Israelites exist, and that goes back to the 13th century. That Israel existed. You have stelae that mention the kings of Judah, the kings of Israel. So these people existed. We have the Isaiah seal, the Hezekiah seal. Hezekiah seal shows that what? They venerated Yah. You got these people, there were no Yahwehs back then, but his name is Hezekiah. That is a theophoric name that shows venerations for the deity Yah or Yahweh. So anybody pushing that is lying, or they just don't know, or they just regurgitating some information that they learned from some idiot on YouTube. You understand? That haven't took the time out to actually invest in this. And this is why they're called dilettantes. A dilettante is someone that's not committed to actually learning in the subject. You don't give a damn about this information, but you discount it. You can't discount it if you ain't looked into the information to judge it.
Or is it Hillary? In fact, they won't touch this kind of topic. They would like to have some buffoon on who knows nothing about the topic that they can make fun of. But if somebody actually knows what they're talking about, no desire to have a conversation with that guy. And this, I'm afraid, also extends to intellectual academic debate. Professors, I don't name names, but it's true in general, are scared to debate. They say things, but they won't stand up behind them. They rely on their own hospitable crowd of well-wishers to endorse what they say, amplify it. They want Michael Moore to make a movie on it, and they want to be in the New York Review of Books. But they won't stand up man to man in intellectual debate and allow their ideas to be tested.
And that's a fact, man. These people don't want to allow their ideas to be tested. And like we exposed yesterday, these guys are so used to trying to question what we believe in and what our doctrine is that they don't even know how to substantiate the things that they believe in and what they follow. Because you guys don't have no foundation. Our foundation's solid over here. Like what we read in Edith Bruder's book. She said all of these things that we're reading is pointing to the fact that you had a numerous amount of Jews in the Niger Basin, a numerous amount of Jews in Senegal, Ghana, Gayo, Ouargla, the Dry Valley. And we were so familiar with this area that we were able to map it out with geographical precision. That's where you get the Catalan Atlas from, the Majorcan map makers, because we were familiar with this part of the world. Very precise. The cartographers show, and she's basically saying that's the most definitive evidence that we have of Jews having a presence in sub-Saharan Africa is the fact that we were able to make those maps and be so precise that people after them were able to use those maps to travel and traverse sub-Saharan Africa. It's a poignant point. And like I said, we can see, and then these Jews are coming in, bringing in the knowledge of metallurgy. Where is that coming from? Southwest Asia. The Bantu people brought in metallurgy. Where does that information come from? Southwest Asia. Whale boring, Southwest Asia. Irrigation, Southwest Asia. Coconuts, Southwest Asia. Chicken seeds, Southwest Asia. Bananas, we said coconuts. Chickens, Southwest Asia. All this stuff comes from Southwest Asia. The humpback cattle, same thing. We brought all this stuff to sub-Saharan Africa. Like I said, in Nigeria, you don't see metallurgy until 2,500 years ago. So you can see an influx and a migratory pattern of people coming in and bringing in these foreign ideas that the sub-Saharan Africans that were there before had no idea about. It was alien to them. It was alien to them. It was foreign to them. They didn't know anything about metallurgy. They didn't know anything about watermelon and coconuts and chicken seeds and terracotta. They didn't know anything about that. We introduced that to sub-Saharan Africa. And we transformed it from dung huts to stone wall cities, like you see in the great Zimbabwe. That's just a fact. That's why I give glory to our ancestors, man. I'm not giving it to A, B, Khoisan, Forest, Dwellers, Haplogroup E, damn it. That's what we represent over here. And it's lining up with these Jews in the Dry Valley, lining up with these Jews in Wagla, Lam, Gayo, the Suniki. The Suniki people say they come from the Middle East. Deal with it. That's their oral tradition. Deal with it. You understand? Like Juvie say, you understand? It is what it is. And we will finish this book 9, 10 in the epilogue. The entire book will be archived here on the channel as a playlist. You can watch it from the beginning to the end and experience the highlights. If you want to experience page to page, you're going to have to purchase this book yourself. You understand? $20 or $30 to get you this book. Great book. Awesome book. It talks about the inhabitants there holding the traditions of being Jews, the historical references of these people being Jews, give you all the historical elements, and give you the genetic argument as well with the limba. Like I said, it cannot be refuted with the limba. Matter of fact, let me pull that up. Let me pull up my Google Playbook account. Like I said, we actually read over here. The mother cats don't read, they skim. You know what I'm saying? I need to get that clip on the Boondocks when he said, "Read, nigga, read," and it hurt his soul. You know what I'm talking about? When they was pulling they was doing an exorcism. You know what I'm saying? But that is so true. So let me get to the Parfits, Black Jews in Africa and the Americas. The last chapter, which we did cover. You can watch that entire book being read here on the source. I have the playlist. You can go watch it. And here's the thing: people gonna get upset. Oh, he bringing this out, talking about this. They get mad at the author that put it in their book. You getting mad at the wrong person. That's misplaced anger. Y'all upset because your lies can't be told anymore, man. We can see that the Jews had a presence, an ancient presence in Western Africa, man. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. Your lies can no longer permeate no more, man. And that's it on that. Let me see. Where is it at? Let me get to the last chapter of this book right here, where he deals with the limba, he deals with your genetic argument, and it's just at that point where you just got to be like, yo, it is what it is. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know, another thing too, like I said, a lot of you guys are racist because your whole basis on these people not being Jews or us not being Jews is that we're black. That's what it is. Black people can't be Jews. Says who? That ain't no genetic study telling you black people can't be Jews or black people can't be anything because of their damn skin color. So you judge people solely based on how they look and how their skin color. That's racism, man. That's colorism. And y'all invoke that in your arguments. You understand? But then when you read this history and you read these references, we seeing that black Jews and white Jews existed. You understand? Just like you got the Berbers, you got black Berbers and white Berbers. Right? When you look at haplogroup E, just to look at E1B1B, the people of Somali are black. Right? But then you have white European E1B1B. Black and white, but they share the same paternal fathers. Because that shows you a variation in color gradation of these people, which I don't understand. All right, let me see. See if I can find what I'm looking for. All right, so I'm looking at this book, and I want to bring out the fact that Semitic. Oh, right here. I got it. Let me bring it up. Yeah, thank you, Ramal Yahoo. These conversations bring out what true racism is. This needs to be preached across the world, that color doesn't tell where you are from. Exactly, Ramal Yahoo. Exactly. And they use the same arguments, man. Like I said, what Tudor Parfit wrote in his book about the man that discounted Ollendorf's account about the Jews in Luongo. He said, "Why are you talking to a slave? Slaves don't have no history and no culture." And this is exactly how they approach us. You understand? All right, let me share my screen real quick, y'all. So again, this is the Black Jews of Africa and the Americas. It says, on the basis of the samples of DNA from 49 Limba men, Jenkins wrote what was a historic article which was published in the American Journal of Human Genetics, 1996. The results of the paper were that 50% of the Limba Y chromosomes tested were Semitic in origin, 40% were Negroid, and the ancestry of the remainder could not be resolved. Jenkins noted, these Y-specific genetic findings are consistent with the Limba oral tradition. An analysis of the history of Jewish people and their association with Africa indicates that the historical facts are not incompatible with theories concerning the origin of the Limba. So body bag, man. We can see that, how, like they said, they traveled from Eurasia, from the Levant, from Jerusalem into Sinai, into sub-Saharan Africa. The genes, their Y chromosomes show and prove that because they have that Eurasian DNA. That shows Eurasian gene flow. It's that simple. All right. Where's the other portion where it says, right here. As a result of these and other studies, it's now widely believed that the Limba are of Jewish origin and that it has a scientific basis. One work concludes, this research provides validation for the Limba and important news to the worldwide Jewish community about their far-flung cousins, but is equally fascinating for what it tells everyone about race. This surprising genetic link between a tribe of Black Africans and their Europeans and Middle Eastern cousins suggests that if there is such thing as a race, it isn't a matter of skin color or a prominent nose. And that's what we teach here on the channel. It has nothing to do with your skin color. You could be related to somebody that looks like Ethan Hawke, and you can look like Wesley Snipes. As long as your DNA goes back to the same paternal ancestor, you guys are related genetically. Period. You guys rely on lookership, how people look, and then you judge solely on how somebody look, and you tell them their whole ancestry and their whole history. That's madness. All right. Let's go to 134. It says, for the Limba elite, the DNA evidence had further usefulness. As a result, the Limba leadership was increasingly drawn into a wide range of Jewish and other networks in South Africa. Let me see. I want the last statement here in this book. The religious practice of these Limba probably does not have very much in common. Going on. Modern lost tribe. Here it is, right here. Here it is. Right here. The Black Limba, the white men who came from Sinai with their bodily inscribed genetic history that ties them with the Middle East, now serve for many aspiring Black Jewish groups throughout the world as one Black Jewish proof community whose authenticity, in their view, is based on the most unassailable scientific proof of all. It is most unlikely that it will change. And it is unassailable. You can't. It's genetic DNA. All right. Ain't no way around that, man. All right, man. Let me close it down, man. Shalom to everybody. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Share the video on the numerous social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You know how we rocking, man. 7 gang, Source Gang over everything. We're going to keep killing y'all, man. Chapter 9, Chapter 10, coming soon. In the epilogue, we will conclude this book here on the channel.
Big business.
RSK, let it play, boy.
When I tell them I'm an Israelite, it's big business, not miniature. Serving same thing as minister. Kill the flesh, how to finish them. These commandments, they'll sustain you. I'm surrounded by these angels. I ain't worried, I'm protected from seen and unseen dangers. When I tell them I'm an Israelite, it's big business, not miniature. Serving same thing as minister. Kill the flesh, how to finish them. These commandments, they'll sustain you. I'm surrounded by these angels. I ain't worried, I'm protected from seen and unseen dangers. I wake up and say me a prayer, brush my teeth, babe, then I throw on some threads. Wash my face, grab a cup, pour me some yum, put on my backpack, then I'm off to the bread. I eat these devils for breakfast, gotta be careful. Whole lot of blood being shed in the streets. World is so wicked, I weep for the living, I drop a free church for the dead. All my white friends in my pocket, or either they loading onto this black card that I swipe. Say every time that I drop it, the verses be hitting more harder than problems of life. Rich, I collected 2 pennies from every person that willingly gave me advice. Being afraid can't exist in my spirit. I'm fearing no man but the Father in Christ. I put in work with the brothers. We stood on them corners from 10 to like 9 the same night, teaching our people the gospel, equipped with a camera, some posters, some speakers, and mic. Every time that I see mama, she telling me, son, you gotta walk in the light. Christ, the bread of heaven, keep feeding my spirit, and I want a low, not a slide. When I tell them I'm an Israelite, it's big business, not miniature. Serving same thing as minister. Kill the flesh, how to finish them. These commandments, they'll sustain you. I'm surrounded by these angels. I ain't worried, I'm protected from seen and unseen dangers. When I tell them I'm an Israelite, it's big business, not miniature. Serving same thing as minister. Kill the flesh, how to finish them. These commandments, they'll sustain you. I'm surrounded by these angels. I ain't worried, I'm protected from seen and unseen dangers.
When I tell you I'm an Israelite, tribe of Judah, don't you take it personal. Plead the blood on these demons, we purging them. Don't entertain Jezebels, we be curving them. Ayy, I got a ribbon, she virtuous. In person, this blue life ain't virtual. I can't forget when I heard the truth. I got cut with that word, it got surgical. Conviction can lead to repentance. I pray these verses encourage you. We repented, now we on the vertical. Judah rising, see Isaiah 32. Big business, nothing minuscule. I picked up that pen back in middle school. Guard your light and take heed who you listen to. Watch your mouth and your ears and your vision too. Hashatan and Shalkani won't finish you. In Mortal Kombat, this war is not physical. Gird your loins up and follow the general. Messiah is coming, that's scriptural. You gotta starve your flesh. The real war ain't even started yet. This look like a setup for a second exodus. I'm trying to be where the water at. Let's get it.
When I tell them I'm an Israelite, it's big business, not miniature. Serving same thing as minister. Kill the flesh, how to finish them. These commandments, they'll sustain you. I'm surrounded by these angels. I ain't worried, I'm protected from seen and unseen dangers. When I tell them I'm an Israelite, it's big business, not miniature. Serving same thing as minister. Kill the flesh, how to finish them. These commandments, they'll sustain you. I'm surrounded by these angels. I ain't worried, I'm protected from seen and unseen dangers.
7 gang, source gang over everything. You know how we rocking, man. You know that we clipped up. You know that we gripped up. And it's 7 candlesticks up. And I've been telling you niggas, it ain't a debate. It's a stick up. Gang.